Okay, so this is gonna be the last coding time for the summer session. I know you guys have your exam tomorrow. If you want to go over one of the old exams, I would recommend looking over the video from last week because that was the exam to practice. And so right now I'm just gonna talk about a little bit of the concepts that you'll need to know for this second exam. And other than that, if you have any questions, just feel free to type them and I'll address them after I'm done with this. If there are no questions, then we'll end a little early today. So the first concept I want to talk about is the XML. And so XML, how it kind of works is like a tree structure. And so let's look at um, the XML for this structure or this XML for this exam, and let's break down how it works. So Dr. Parks will always give you this thing called, which he calls the root, which will hold the XML, which right here, he's like assume root is this XML, which holds all this data inside. And that's always going to be how it is in our exam. So the root is actually this top part, and that's just the document type. And so most of the time for these exams, you'll only have one main element inside the root, but it's possible that you could have multiple ones, such as, so this is the root, and then these right here would basically be the Texas City elements inside of the root. And then, so we'd have this Texas City, and it would have a city, and the city would have a rank, city name, P1, P2, and G. And so this one underneath that would be like a city. Then you'd have another one for rank, city name, and then so on. You'd have three more for like P1, P2, and G. And the same thing for all the other ones. So this would be the city, then you'd have a rank, city name, P1, P2, PG, and a G. So that's basically the concept of XML and how it works, how you break it down. So when you're accessing one of the lower pieces in the tree, so you'll start at the root, which is the document type, this first line with the doc type, and then you'll access the next part by saying child nodes. So in this case, he's going through all the child nodes of the root, and in this case, there's only one in here. This Texas City is the only one in the root. We can look at the end, see there's only one in there. And then he's going to access the child node 0. So this one, the first, so we're accessing the child nodes 0 first for this first part. Then in this child nodes, which is this child nodes I part, and then the next part we're going to access child node 0, which would be the first one of these, this one's children, which would be this one. And then you'd be going to child node 0 of that one. So this would be 0 again. So for example, this would be root child nodes 0, root child nodes 1, root child nodes 2. This would be root child nodes 0, root child nodes 0, root child nodes 0, root child nodes 1, and then same thing, root child nodes 1, root child nodes 0, root child nodes 2, and then root dot child nodes 2 dot child nodes 0. And that's how it works. And then the node value is going to be, for example, when you get to the bottom of the tree, you're going to take the value. Or if this one did have a value by itself, which usually, yeah, it would be at the bottom of the tree, then you'd take that. And those are the PC datas. All right, the next questions always going to be about changing CSS properties. And so I made this um, sample document. So there's two things you'll usually be doing is moving around images, and the next thing you'll be doing is like styling like text or something, or taking things from like a text box. In this question, you're taking a text box and changing these things based off of the text box there. And usually, again, he'll tell you how to do it, just like the first one. He tells you exactly like what to put for the loop and all the things. So it's not something you usually have to worry about that much. But let's go ahead and look at this and just do a quick example. A quick example of how we're going to change some of these. So first, let me give these IDs so we can access them. We'll call this blue block. Oops. So we'll call this one yellow block, and that's going to be this yellow block. Call this one blue block, and that's going to be the little blue block that you saw. And this is going to be image, and that's the image on the yellow block that you see. And so the first thing that we're going to do is all right, so let's go back to what I was saying before. Let me just start over with all that. So, so the two things you need to know with CSS, mostly it's going to be about moving objects around inside the page. So the two things you need to know is first the position, which the two positions are going to be relative and absolute. And then, so for relative, everything on this page right now is currently in relative positioning. And so what relative means is everything's going to be one after the other. So for example, this yellow block is before this text block, the the div block with the black border, which is before the font color, background color, alignment, text area. So it's all in order of how it is. So yellow block, text color, and then all these other things. Inside of this yellow block, these are also in relative position. You have a blue block and you have an image. And so the blue block comes first. It's before the image that comes second. So now that we got that, what we want to do is we're gonna change this blue block. We're gonna move it 80 pixels to the right. We're gonna move this image of the cat down to the bottom right corner. And we're gonna make this blue block, we're gonna double the size. So right now it's 40 pixels by 40 pixels, and we want it to be 80 by 80. So those are the three things that we want to do. So the first thing you need to remember when you're editing the style is that you're always going to want to access the style attribute of the element. So for that, we're going to go ahead and take this div block, the yellow, or the, sorry, this one, the blue block, which is one we want to move over 80 pixels to the right. So we're going to say blue block dot style, and when you pick style, that's going to change any CSS element. So the first thing we want to do is we want to change it to absolute positioning, since we want to make this position it absolutely on the page. So absolute is, like I said, it's more of coordinates. So For example, if we wanted it to be over here, we'd use absolute positioning rather than relative where it's just in order. So we're going to change the position from relative, and relative is the default. So whenever something doesn't have anything in it, so if I took out this relative, like here, these don't have a position relative in their style, but since relative is the default, everything's going to automatically be put in relative. So we're going to change it to absolute, and then we want to move it over. So to position elements with absolute positioning, what you want to do is you want to use the top, left, right, and bottom. So how these work is you have left, which starts at the left side of the object that you're using, on the left side of its parent, and whatever number you set the left to, that's how far you're going to move it to the right. So away from the left edge. Right is starting at the right side of the object, and it's going to put it on the right side of the parent. So how parents and children work in this case is, for example, you saw how the blue block and the image are inside of the yellow block. That makes the yellow block the parent for the blue block and the image. And so if we wanted to use right positioning on this blue block, it would set it to the right side of the parent, the right side of the blue block to the right side of the parent. And whatever number we set the right to, the style right to, it would move to the left, so away from the right edge, that far. Same thing with the top and the bottom, so it would start at the top of the parent, and whatever number would move it down away from the top edge, that far, and bottom would start at the bottom and that far away from the bottom edge. So we want to move this block 80 to the left or to the right, 80 away from the left edge. So we edit the left of that blue block. So we'll go ahead and type blue block dot style dot left, and we'll set it equal to 80 pixels. And that's the first thing we wanted to do. So let's see if that works. We're going to save it, refresh the page, and then you want to click the button, and there you go. It moved 80 to the right, which is what we wanted. The next thing we want to do is we want to make it grow. So to make it grow, we're going to edit the width and the height of the object, which is something that you might have to do for the exam as well. So we're going to take the width and we want to double it. Right now it's 40, so we're going to make it 80. So we're going to take the width, make it 80 pixels, and the same thing for the height. So blue block dot style dot height equals 80 pixels. And now that should grow the blue block when we run it again. Oops. And I gotta spell it correctly. There you go. Now the blue block's grown and moved to the right 80 pixels. The next thing we want to do is move this cat image to the bottom right hand corner. So the image is called image. So we'll go ahead and take image style and oops, and we want to first make it relative positioning, or absolute positioning, sorry. So we can move it to a specific position in the thing rather than being the first thing in an order. So we're going to take the position, set it equal to absolute, just like the block. Then we're going to move it to the bottom right hand corner. So remember, if we want to move it to the right, we're going to use the right, style right, which starts at the right and moves it how far away we want it. And we want it to be 0 pixels away from the right. So we're going to go ahead and set it to 0. Next thing we want to do is move it to the bottom. And to move to the bottom, we're going to use the bottom, and we want it 0 away from the bottom as well, so that it's touching that bottom right corner. So we'll go ahead and change the bottom. And that should move it to the bottom right. So let's try this out. There you go. So we grew the blue block, we moved it over to the right 80 pixels, and we moved the image of the cat down to the bottom right corner. Another thing that Dr. Park sometimes asks you to do is manipulate text, such as in this question right here. So we can go ahead and try that out. We're gonna basically, when you fill out this form here, we're gonna have the font color, background color, alignment, and then the actual text that's gonna go inside of the div block, and whatever's entered there, we wanted to actually change the things. So we're gonna create some attributes. So we want a font color, and we're gonna set that equal to this, whatever's inside of this input block. So that's in document.fcolor.value. Then we have our background color. Then we have our alignment. Then finally we have our text, our actual text, which we'll put in. All right. And then what we want to do is we want to change this. We want to put this text in the val inside of this div block with the ID text. And we want to change the font color to this color, the background color to this, the alignment to this, and the value to that one. So let's go ahead and try that. So first, we're going to take the text dot style. So that's this one. And we're going to set the color. So automatically, when you type color for almost any element that holds text, it's going to change the color of the text. So we'll go ahead and put that as font color. The next thing we want to do is change the background color. And for that, we're going to type background. Oops. Next, we're going to change the alignment. So we're going to say text dot style dot whoops dot text align. And let me just check that I'm spelling align correctly. And then we're going to set that to align. Finally, we want to set the value of text. And so now when we run it, we should change the text to whatever we write in there, and it should change the background color of it to whatever we put as the background color, and the font color to whatever we put as the font color. So let's try this out. I'm gonna refresh. I'm gonna put the font color as white, background color as black, alignment as center, and text as this should be white text in a black div block. The text should be aligned to the center. Whoops. And something went wrong. Let's see. So if you ever want to see what's going wrong, if something's not working, you can go into you can inspect your page and you can go to this console. And in the console, it usually tells you, it will tell you like the line here and what's happening. So it's saying that I'm accessing the value of something that doesn't exist, which means I probably just spelled something wrong in line 15. Saying I'm trying to access the value. All right, let's try. I'll just give these IDs instead. And let's see if that works now. White, black, center, text. Nope. Is it the same issue? It's just this one now. And there you go. All right, so it's having an issue accessing the text or the inputs for some reason, but um, I think it might have been because it wasn't in a form. But in this case, I just changed it to the IDs, and now whatever colors we type here should change everything now. So if we wanted to make the background red and the font color um, green, wanted to align it left, should be green, div. So now this text should be aligned to the left, and that looks weird because it's like green and red, but the text is green and the background's red and it's aligned to the left, so everything worked well. So now, the last thing is just if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. Otherwise, that's all I have for today. So good luck um, on your exam tomorrow. If you want to